Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Make sure to subscribe and find me on Instagram at Yara. Today I'm going to talk about baby-led weaning because it is the kind of the way we went with our baby as far as feeding solid foods, and a lot of you have had questions about it. All right, let's start with the basics. Baby-led weaning means that you are slowly weaning your baby off of milk and onto solid food. You usually start at around 6 months of age because that's when babies can really, their digestive system is mature enough, and they're usually sitting up unassisted, which is also a key. And you're starting to introduce these foods. And in the beginning, you're introducing solid foods, not for nutrition, because really their first year, it's always on the milk, whether it's breast milk or formula. They depend on that for the majority of their nutrition. So in the beginning, you're slowly starting to introduce solids so that they can just kind of get to know textures and taste and I don't know, just kind of play around with food and get to know it so that they can be ready when they turn a year to really start to rely on solids. So one of the things that our pediatrician said was they've kind of found recently that when you introduce babies to a variety of different foods, including foods that are known allergens like peanuts and eggs, anything like that, they actually find that those babies have less of a chance of developing food allergies over time. So I kind of wanted to do that with Nikash right away. I wasn't sure if I was gonna go solid like baby-led weaning or if I was gonna start with purees, so I did a little bit of both in the beginning. I started really slow. I started with some purees first and like spoon feeding him, and then just doing really simple stuff like slicing up a few pieces of avocado because it's really soft and putting it in front of him on his high chair and just seeing what he does with it. Like at first you'd see him kind of like push things around on his high chair and stuff, and he wouldn't really put it in his mouth, and so you'd have to help a little bit. But what I did notice was if you like handed it to him, he would take it from you and then he'd like play around and then he'd like kind of lick his hand. And that was really cute to watch. So really soft, super safe foods were what I started with. Avocado is a really good go-to, packed with lots of really good fats, and it tastes good and it's good for you. It's good for your baby. I find that pears are a really good go-to as well. You just slice it up a little bit and it's really soft. A really ripe pear is perfect. And it serves kind of like the purpose that an apple does without the fear of, you know, like an apple choking your child. The pear goes down really nice and soft and mushy. I find that raspberries and blueberries, if you cut them in half, are also a really big fan favorite. Like Nikash loves raspberries. He sees them and he starts to make this noise where he's like really impatient with you. Like, you need to get these to my plate right now because I want my raspberries. He loves them, so I have to hide them when I'm rinsing them. You want more? There's some toast right there. You want more raspberries? Okay, fine. And over time, I got much more comfortable, so we started going out to restaurants together, which I actually find to be a really fun activity to do with Nikash because he loves to try food. So I got him the newer Bumbo where it actually like straps onto chairs at restaurants, and it has its own little high chair top as well. And I just, you know, put pieces of food on his plate from what I'm eating, and he loves it. So I try to have him participate in our dinners or our lunches while we're, you know, all eating at the same time. And that's probably my favorite thing about baby-led weaning, is that we get to all eat together. He's just really well behaved with it because I think, one, it's interesting to him. I think he feels like he's part of, you know, he's doing what the adults are doing. He's 11 months now, and he loves food. He tries a bunch of stuff. We've taken him to, you know, Lebanese food and given him Indian food and taking him to, you know, Greek restaurants, and he just loves it. He loves Mexican food. He even loves a little bit of spice. And one of the things that the doctor pointed out to me also is, you know, we've expected babies to, you know, eat this really bland, gross food, and we always wonder like, why doesn't my baby want to eat this food? You know, it's something that they're supposed to be doing. And she's kind of like, well, if we were eating it, we would probably put a little bit of salt, maybe a little bit of butter, and make it taste really good, some olive oil. And so she said make sure to do that with him. Don't go overboard and like overly salt it, but give him some of it. And you know what, and every once in a while when I go to like McDonald's for breakfast, because I do that, I'll give him a little bit of the hash browns and some of my like egg McMuffin, and he loves it. He thinks it's delicious, obviously, because it is. But he also is very particular already about the things he likes, and he knows exactly what he wants to eat on his plate. So It's been really interesting, and I think that he's gonna be a really good eater just from seeing him right now. There are, I guess, a couple of cons. I'm talking about all the pros and like the way I decided to move into baby-led weaning with him, but I would say things to be prepared for are it can be really messy. I had to start using a little mat underneath his high chair. I got one from a brand called Gather. It's made out of like a thin leather, and so I can wipe it off. And you know, they start to, you know, he plays with it and mushes all the food and stuff, and so he sometimes will rub it on his face or like in his hair and everything, and you're like, oh, I guess he's gonna have to take a bath tonight or really wipe him down afterwards. But he also, because we have a dog, he sees that we'll give our dog treats, or he'll notice that if he drops any food on the ground, our dog wants to eat it. So now he's actually into dropping the food. Now our dog just ends up with food stuck in his fur all the time, and we have to get him cleaned all the time. But it's really cute to see, you know, this evolution of how he is with the food. One tip I have is start with just a few items on the plate in front of them. And I actually didn't even use a plate because his high chair comes off so you can just wash it. So we use it like a plate because he'll try to take the plate and like throw it. So that's been helpful, just kind of putting it right on top of the high chair. And I start with like one type of food first, and then I move into another type of food when I feel like he's done with that, and then another one. And then eventually you see him like picking and choosing what he wants to eat. And it's really interesting to see that evolution. Another thing, I find that if I'm all by myself at home while I'm gonna feed him, I tend to put him in the high chair. That way I can actually prepare his food. And he gets a little bit antsy now. He wasn't like this in the beginning, but now he gets really, really antsy. So I wasn't into giving him these, you know, like baby cereal snacks, but my mom introduced him to them and he really liked them. So I started buying these puffs, and then also like the kind of like cracker ones that melt in their mouth. And I'll just put like a few in front of him while I'm preparing his food just to keep him busy, and he goes through these. These are kind of like a lifesaver, and they're great to take on planes and everything. So these are really good for baby-led weaning too, because they just pick them up and they like them. They're easy to eat, and they, you know, it's like us eating little snacks or something. I had posted on my Instagram that I was gonna be doing this video, and I said to my followers that you could ask some questions. First one I'm gonna answer is by Caroline Carlson 13, and she says, do you ever feel like they aren't actually consuming much? I feel like my little girl puts it in her mouth, chews it out, and spits it back out. Yeah. Sometimes they don't eat that much of it, but that's okay for the first year because I said earlier, it's really about them getting to know these tastes and textures and playing with the food and everything. So sometimes they don't always eat it, and sometimes they don't always like it. If there is food that you really want your child to eventually like, sometimes they say to reintroduce it maybe like a month later, because their taste buds change, and what they're interested in changes also, I find. Like for instance, we started with scrambled eggs in the beginning with Nikash, and then he eventually just hated them. Like he loved them in the beginning, and now he hates them. He doesn't want to touch them. I put egg in front of him and he's like, ugh, no way. Alexandra asked, does he still accept being fed with a spoon? Sometimes he does. Sometimes he just wants to play with a spoon if he sees it. So what I've done is, if I'm gonna use a spoon, like if for soup for instance, I will get 2 spoons. I'll let him have one, and even try to like spoon it in himself, which he never accomplishes, but at least he's trying. And then I'll actually keep a second spoon so that I can actually feed him with that spoon. But you know, they start to become more and more independent, and they just don't want you to feed them. So I tend to find that if I really need to feed him myself, I use my hands a lot. So soup does not come in handy too often in baby-led weaning unless there's like big chunks of food in there that you can just pull out. Victoria A. Modio. She says, did you start at 6 months? I did. I actually started even like maybe a touch earlier with the purees. I just kind of wanted him to taste things and see, you know, I just saw that he was like interested in food. So like around 5.5 months, I started letting him just like kind of taste little things. I'd like put it on my finger and like put it in his mouth to see what he would do, and he loved food from the beginning. Draw Adriana 1986, she says, can you mix baby-led weaning and purees? Also, what do you bring when traveling? I do mix it sometimes. In the beginning I did actually. I mixed the purees with the baby-led weaning, and then the baby-led weaning started to win out because I saw that he was really taking to it. So, and once I felt more comfortable with it too, you guys, when I say that I was nervous about him handling solid foods, I was really, really nervous. Like the minute I thought like he was choking on anything, when really he was just kind of like gagging a little bit, which is normal. then I would like freak out and like pull him out of his high chair and, you know, like pat his back and stuff. And there's just no need to worry too much, but I couldn't help it, and I think it's normal. So I did mix it a little bit, and it was fine. And then we eventually moved strictly to baby-led weaning. As far as what I bring when traveling, pouches are actually great. We went to Hawaii. I used pouches a lot while we were traveling. I tend to bring this little skip hop container. It holds like formula on the top. On the second one, I would put these kind of like puffs because they can eat them like they're non-stop. And then I'd put something like blueberries into the bottom. He loves his blueberries. He will, you know, blueberries and raspberries are his two favorite thing. Which brings me actually to another tip. They say start with like green vegetables and that kind of stuff first, which I would just steam. Anything that's like hard, just steam it. You're good. I got a Biba steamer, food steamer, and it works really, really well for him. They say if you start with the sweet stuff, then that's what they're gonna be really into first. And I unfortunately started with the sweet stuff, like, you know, besides the avocado, but even avocado is sweet. So he really loves his fruit. You give him broccoli and stuff, he'll eat a little bit of it, but he's not as into it. I find like the best of both worlds is sweet potato and butternut squash. I steam those all the time. I have packages of like frozen chunks, and I'll pop them into his Biba, and he eats those. And so it's kind of like, he gets that nutrition, but he also gets that sweetness that he loves. Ning Knows Best said that she needs food and recipe ideas. I think keeping it simple for the most part when you're just feeding your baby. Like for instance, he eats dinner way before we do, but we don't even eat our own dinner usually until he's already gone to bed. So I don't tend to make him his own meal unless we've ordered food for dinner, and then I'll maybe order him something. But even at that, I'll probably order him something that he's gonna eat the next day. But I find that meatballs are really, really easy to feed. Or if you have like any kind of meats, like chicken, you know, like give him little pieces of chicken. Or if you make like pasta, they love pasta. And it's just easier to eat too. And if it's like spaghetti, he loves to play with it too and eat it, and he just loves it. It's so much fun for him. In the mornings, because he's not liking scrambled eggs anymore, to give him more protein, I mix a banana with an egg, and then I, you know, like mix it up, and it's like that 2-ingredient pancake. Loves it. He thinks it's really delicious. I put some cinnamon and some like vanilla in it, and it tastes a little bit sweeter, and he loves it. He thinks it's delicious. I don't put anything else. I just give him little slices of it. Eats that too. And then the last question I'm gonna answer is by Joyfulness is Homemade. She said her baby is 6 months in a few days, in 10 days, and she's reading baby-led weaning. But her baby doesn't sit up well unassisted. I would wait till your baby is sitting up, because the big worry with baby-led weaning is that your baby could choke, and so you want to make sure like your baby's, you know, throat is completely open and the pathway for the food is really easy for him. So wait, be patient. Your baby will be sitting up any day now, I promise you. It could even be within these 10 days before your baby turns 6 months old. So just wait a little bit and go with what they recommend. You know, they didn't make this stuff up, so go that way. So that's my experience with baby-led weaning. I just want to remind you guys, I'm not an expert. I'm just a first-time mom sharing my experience, and I find that helpful. Whenever I Google and search other parents and see what they're doing, it makes me feel good to know that they're going through similar things. So that's why I share these experiences. You can find me, my friend Sharzad, a bunch of other parents in our Fam for All Moms private Facebook group. I'll leave a link below in the description so you can find it, and there'll be some links for some of the other stuff that I found very helpful. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.